It is hard to believe that it has been more than a year now since the COVID-19 pandemic began. But now the end is in sight, because vaccines are on their way. We even know their names: Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Johnson & Johnson. They are celebrities. No, heroes, because they have the power to save us from COVID-19. It's that simple, right? All we have to do is get the vaccine when it's offered. In fact, not everyone has to get it. If only 75 to 85% of us get the jab, we will achieve herd immunity, which is where even people who don't get the vaccine benefit from those who did. It seems so obvious, yet not everyone is ready to go on board with vaccinations. Why not? Hello, my name is Benjamin Kosminski Perry. I'm here to talk to you about the biggest stumbling block to the end of COVID: vaccine resistance. In Canada, 38% of people polled by Angus Reid Institute said that they would wait and see how the vaccines are working before getting one themselves in Canada. But the issue is global. More than 30% of French residents do not trust vaccines, according to MarketWatch. Why? Where did this fear of vaccines come from? Well, it turns out vaccine resistance is as old as vaccines, older even, and its story lies in the history of public health. Science can be intimidating, but stories are easy to understand and memorable. Here is the story of the creation of the vaccine. After I've explored the problem through this story, I'll propose 2 fundamental solutions that can help us end the current pandemic. But first, why do people resist vaccines? Edward Jenner was a country doctor in England who invented the very first vaccine, and his life was the story of vaccines. Not only did he invent the vaccine, but changed public health and perceptions on what it meant to be clean. To understand Jenner's invention, you should know a little more about the history of public health. Public health dates back to antiquity. One of the earliest recorded public health initiatives is the ancient Romans' introduction of public baths. The Romans built these baths and entitled anyone who lived in Rome to visit them once a week. The Romans had discovered that washing away dirt improves your immune system. But more than that, for the Romans, bathing and cleanliness were signs of civility and distinguished civilized Romans from the so-called dirty barbarians and the conquered people in Roman provinces. With the Roman Empire adding civility to the thoughts of cleanliness, through the Middle Ages, religious leaders added Christianity to the mix. Cleanliness was now next to godliness. Now, I believe what they were doing was very wrong, but when the missionaries were spreading their religion to new continents as they were discovering, they were rationalizing their conquering by thinking of it as bringing gifts, such as cleanliness. So cleanliness was now a gift from God. So from the Roman Empire to the Christian Empire, by the time of the British Empire, cleanliness was still a sign of civilization, and now cleanliness was next to godliness. Enter Edward Jenner. At the tail end of the Renaissance, this physician from a small rural town called Berkeley, England, came across a startling discovery one day. He noticed that some dairy workers were actually immune to smallpox, but no one else knew why. He began to speculate why, ultimately figuring out that they became immune because they had been exposed to cowpox, a much weaker strand of disease of smallpox, from their job milking cows. Jenner formed a revolutionary theory that if the milkmaids were immune to smallpox because of their exposure to cowpox, then anyone could become immune to smallpox simply by exposing themselves to cowpox. From studying these milkmaids, he theorized that what was needed is to get the infection into the bloodstream, where our white blood cells are. Cowpox is the pus of infected cows infected by smallpox. To test his theory, Jenner's vaccine was made from cowpox and had to be injected into you, so you can understand why some people were hesitant. It was a radical idea, but his vaccine worked. When Jenner told the Royal Society, the highest scientific authority of the day, of his discovery, they rejected him outright. Church leaders and newspaper strips mocked him because his ideas were so revolutionary. Here's the key to their resistance. Scientists and other authorities of his day could not accept something that went against over 1,000 years of conventional wisdom, that putting something dirty like cow pus into the human body will make people healthy. It would be like a parent telling their children not to wash their hands before dinner, but instead to go out and rub their hands in mud before eating. Mud! Ew! It seemed absurd. Fortunately, Jenner had the courage of his conviction. In spite of overwhelming opposition, he vaccinated himself, his children, his whole family, and offered his vaccine to anyone who wanted it. Jenner spent all his life trying to convince people that his immunology worked. Eventually, his ideas were accepted by medicine and public health authorities. His science was all correct, and now we trust that vaccines can save us from disease. Well, some of us do. It is often the case that people in their day think that they are so far ahead from the people of the past. But today, vaccine skeptics remain. Some still seem stuck on the notion that you can't take something dirty, inject yourself with it, and become healthier. The COVID vaccine was developed very quickly, which to some people is quite worrying. Time magazine and Gallup polls conducted last December, anywhere between 37 to 40% of all of Americans said they would either probably not or definitely not get the COVID-19 vaccine. So we are back to the same fundamental problem Edward Jenner faced all those years ago. How do you convince someone that putting something dirty into their bodies can keep them healthy? To me, there are two clear and fundamental solutions to the problem of vaccine resistance. We need to change the ingrained attitudes towards cleanliness that dates back to the ancient Romans. Solution 1. I propose that schools teach the story of Edward Jenner and go right back to the story of the milkmaids who stayed healthy while many others got smallpox. It's not that Jenner was telling people to stop washing their hands. Clean hands are healthy, but so are vaccines. We need to think of vaccines simply as another way to be clean. Because solution 2, we need to rethink what cleanliness is. Vaccines to your immune system are the same as doing brain teasers improves your IQ, and stretching a muscle makes it stronger. Vaccines give you a stronger immune system. So when you are lucky enough to be offered a vaccine, think back to the story of Edward Jenner and the milkmaids and get the jab. As they say, if we do not learn from history, it will repeat itself. Thank you.